All right, I want to thank Alain for such a wonderful film. We can't see you, but you can do your virtual rounds of applause. We're going to do the Q&A, just a few things. First, thank you all for watching. Everyone stayed through the whole film, and a special Mission Peel to our colleagues and others who are tuning in from Haiti right now at this time that Alain points to so poignantly. Si outre-mer film ça, if you liked the film, you can contact Alain to arrange a screening. This is a special kind of preview screening, but of course, filmmakers need to make money to be able to support their films. So if you want to organize a screening at your university or in your city, I will put Alain's contact information. Thank you also to Yveline, to Laurent, and to Marie-Josée for their bibliographic suggestions. I have one that I will add in the chat. My former student, Cassandra Balsis, is here, and she did her MA thesis on US press coverage of the American occupation of Haiti, and that's an open access. Also, you can ask questions in any language. We have one so far. But what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn, and again, you can do this in all three languages. I'm going to turn to Dr. Alexis Yveline, who you have seen in the film, and she will pose a few first.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. Bienvenue. Welcome. Merci en pile for tuning in to this viewing. It's just lovely to see the energy in terms of the questions, the comments on the chat. And I'm like, this is what HSA is about. So I have two questions. I really believe in getting out of the way because I believe in a shared laku. I don't do a thesis before I ask a question, so I'm gonna get right into it. So Alain, bon no equipo, especially as we're supporting our Haitian women's team. In Australia, there's a team that's behind this. Banou no moun ki na equipo ki fait film sa, avec banou no moun ki inspire ou. I put in the chat the scholars that you learned from. And I want to know who did you learn from? So ça c'est première question. Hein?
Okay.
Deuxième là, c'est, as one who writes about this period, it's hard to find Haitians who are not naked, who are not seen as dispossessed, etc., and disempowered. Dis-nous, qui gens ou inclus yo-même, mesdames yo, intellectual yo, I have some theories, but I want to hear from you. And I guess, I don't know, I do Kringlish because I'm from Brooklyn. I translated this. I gave it in Creole. So the questions I asked were, tell us about the team involved in the project and also what inspired you, who inspired you, because we all as intellectuals and artists learn from one another and build on one another. And also tell us about his process to include female gendered voices in the documentary when writes about this period, the image is so dispossessing. In fact, I include the photo of Charlemagne Pera dead, although I see the purpose on that in my book because I'm so sick of Black Death, but I understand your purpose.
We talked about that when we met. Yeah. No, listen, I understand. When we did our interview, you probably don't remember because it's been such a long time. But, you did mention that, with the whole showing Pea's body is this collective obsession, this pornographic obsession with the Black body, right? And before I answer your questions, I'm sure you came across this information. When Peas was indeed assassinated, there was this pornographic obsession with what are we gonna do with his corpse, right? Like they kept on flashing his face and they later, like a match to really make sure it was him, and they couldn't stop admiring the cadaver. I thought that was very disturbing. Anyway, to answer your question, moun ki inspire first and foremost nan vim, c'est Malcolm X. Parce que m'te gen 16 ans, et puis m'pat même kon bal anglais. M'tap struggle with English. So I first moved to the US and pick up the autobiography of Malcolm X. And I still remember how the first 50 pages had this profound effect on me. So when he's talking about when he was in prison and the books he was reading, I went and chased those books. That's how I ended up discovering Richard Wright. And that's how I discovered W.B. Du Bois, who I consider my intellectual father. I'm obsessed with this man. I wanted to write the way he wrote, right? So yeah, in terms of my team, I really have like three people that stuck with me from the beginning. But so konen, nous gen 10 ans dans ce projet ça, gen moun qui vini, yo fatigué, yo ba vague, fait mauvais sang, yo pas arrêté. So nous gen Anso Gustave et qui sont haïtiens les mêmes qui produisent ce film là. Mon petit partenaire qui les Brian Henaro qui sont Équador. Après ça, mon gen on zami qui les Adèle Femme. C'est lui qui filmé film là, il était en Haïti avec tout bagay pour toute interview. So c'est mon ça qui était avec from the get-go. Là, me gen ti moment dépression, me dit ket, m'ba que film ça jamais fini. They used to boost me up saying, listen, we're gonna get through this, just survive this. In terms of like the female gendered voices, listen, make it somewhere. I'm gonna be as very honest as possible. Your art is a reflection of who you are. Okay? So if I come to this shit, I'm the I have to make sure I include women. Je suis un nan vie pas, je charge femme qui charge autorité. So si me font un film qui va bien là-dedans, number one, ça veut dire que je suis un qui a vivre dans menti. Vous avez dit? Et vous connaissez tout même grandi Jacques Mel, ça veut dire que grandi dans ce système là pour la caille. You know what I'm saying? Where vous connaissez, fille qui a autorité, you gain pouvoir, you know? So that's pretty much it. So thank you for those questions and thank you for being part of the film, Yveline.
Wonderful. Merci un pile, Alain. So we're going to open it up. You attendees who've stuck around on a samedi matin, samedi soir, pose your questions, but also offer your comments if you have any. And then if you have critiques, make them constructive, please. And thank you.
All right, we have one comment first, which is for Alain. It's from Phil Julien. He says, this was an awesome film and brought back a lot of memories. I was a Marine in Haiti in 2004 and have done extensive research in the 1914 theft and the 1915 to 1934 occupation. Alain, thank you for this.
Thank you, Phil.
Alain, I'll save you also the chat afterwards so you can read all of the other things people say. But I've got 3 questions. I'm going to start first with one from Lois Wilkin, aka La Troupe Macandal. And this is to either of you, because Yveline, you of course are a scholar of the occupation. Has anyone done work on ecological impacts of the occupation, both during it and after the departure of the Marines?
I would say that Milta Gilbert, who's in the film, does have a book called Shaddai, if anyone wants to pick it up. That does mention the ecological disasters of the occupation. We do have a 2-hour and 40-minute version of this film. I don't know if that version is ever going to come out, where Félix Jean-Louis does talk about the ecological disasters of the occupation, right? Because when you clear land to make a banana plantation or whatever, pineapple plantation, you know, you are setting the stage for ecological disasters to come, right? And he made the point that we love to blame the paysans for cutting trees to make charbon, but you know, that's nowhere near being the entire story.
That I would add to check out the work by the Sylvain sisters, particularly Dr. Madeleine Sylvain, later Sylvain Boucherie. Dr. Grace Sanders Johnson reminds us in her book, White Gloves, Black Nation, about these women pioneers, intellectuals, first anthropologists, first social workers, and how they covered the Shada period and its dispossession in Haiti, not only from an ecological framework, but obviously cultural, lippy, human capital as well. So bringing it back to the sisters and how a sister, Grace Sanders Johnson, brings it back to the Sylvain women who first documented this in the 30s onwards.
All right, so I will go to another one then. This one is from our colleague Nadev Minard in Haiti, in Delma. She said, I feel like this is several films in one. She's a literary critic, right? It's framed as a letter to Alain's grandfather, but I wonder who the intended audience is really. The idea of the occupation as forgotten, of Roger Gaillard as Haiti's forgotten historian, makes me wonder if this film is not really directed towards Haitians, but maybe Americans. I'm also really struggling to answer the question about whether an occupation now would be a good idea. And I'd like to hear more about that choice.
Yeah, you know, I mean, listen, these things they can be ambiguous. There are no easy answers. I mean, I know where I stand. I know for me, an occupation is a no-no. But I do understand that, I do understand the desperation of people who are looking for a sort of relief, And in terms of who's the audience, listen, man, the audience is for anyone who's interested in Haiti. And this is a question that I did struggle with, like, who am I going to target this film from? Obviously, I've been in the US for a long time now, since I was 13 years old, So English is a language I'm very comfortable in. So I needed to make a film, number one, that responded to me, right? I don't know if anybody here listens to rap music, but I'm a huge fan of the Wu-Tang Clan. And I remember I read an interview with one of their members, and they asked him, when you write a song, who are you trying to please? And he said, first and foremost, I come first. I have to be satisfied with what I write. And then whoever comes along, comes along. And that's kind of the approach I took, because one of the things that delayed making this film was I spent a lot of time trying to think, how can I please different audiences? And it just wasn't working. So I sort of cut it down, So if I'm forced to answer that question, I would probably say the Haitian Americans. I'm not gonna lie.
Can I add to that? And thank you, Dr. Minad, for that wonderful question. I do think there's an interesting sort of like dichotomy where there's some of us who know so much about Roger Gaillard in terms of his intellectual, soup, jus, mou, bouillon, all of that. I mean, what that man put down in terms of research, field work, archival work, all across the world is a blueprint that we should all follow as anthropologists, sociologists, etc. And I think there is a way in which we, whether Haitians born in the diaspora, certainly born in Haiti, that we have to kiss the ring. We have to pay homage to Gaillard, because without him, there's no Hans Smith, there's no Renda, and I know there's no me. And even when
definitely no documentary.
And even his children, like his daughter, has been very welcoming and certainly forthcoming about wanting to do more with her daughter's project. So Roger Gaillard, if you believe in tattoo, and that's a tattoo right there that we should celebrate Bwakaima coming up in August. Certainly all of May Heritage Month. So thank you, Nadia, for and then this idea of audience, like those of us who are in the know about this invasion, in the know of Duvalier, versus those who don't know, and what do they do with this broad information that Alain is presenting, these many chapters, who may not have a nuanced view. So Nadia, merci un peu.
All right, we have two questions in the formal question zone, mais moi voulais poser une question non créole. Alors, Haiti pose question, tu gagnes une seule référence vaudou non film non, il est sa levé, c'est vaudon ou relève. Pour qui ça ou pas mêlé non, élimine ça à, moi juste curieux.
Okay, I'm sorry. So,
and I'll just translate to English. He's wondering why there's only one reference to Vodou in the film, and it's also called Vaudon.
All right, so there was a Haitian scholar in New York I was having a conversation with, and I used the term voodoo, and Mr. Metim place moi, yo, that word voodoo is what the colonizers used to dehumanize the current, the right term is vaudon. So if I'm wrong, I stand corrected, but that's someone who's a scholar at Pace University that told me that. Second, again, we have a 2-hour and 40-minute version of the film that takes on even more, and it talks about Vaudon more extensively. It talks about the influx of the Protestants into the country, to undermine Catholicism and to also undermine, the Vaudon religion. Fortunately, cinema is still a form. When you're making a film, you still have to service the art form, right? And sometimes the art form takes precedent over the story. So there's only so many things we can fit in into a film that's an hour and 37 minutes,
Great. Yeah, it's true. I'm sure there's a lot of editing. Alain was working on this for a very long time. As someone who participated in the Kickstarter, I was getting updates over a number of years. So it's especially amazing it's finished. All right. Yeah. We were going to go to about 105, but I've got 3 questions on the table. So let's ask those. I've got 2 here and then one from Patrick Bellegarde Smith. So AL has been waiting. what terminology do you think, and this can be for Alain or Yveline, Dr. Alexis, what terminology is appropriate to discuss what happened? Film commentators seem to have jumped around, and even one person stated genocide is not mentioned enough. Can we unpack this further as a collective? Were there death camps? Were there hard labor camps? Does this mean genocide? I heard discussions about 50,000 people losing land in the film. Why did you decide, Alain, to include that comment? Did you agree with it, or was it to show a spectrum of opinions?
Oh no, me, I 1,100% agree with it. Right. Growing up, because my father was an agronomist by trade, he's retired now, and he used to tell me about when he drives around the country, he will see those vacant lands that were seized under US occupation. Nothing ever happened with them, and yet they were never given back. Right. And the other thing that I responded to was that, again, ever since I've been here, this idea of Haitian immigration has been something that people won't stop talking about. Like when I used to live in New Jersey, it was an all-white neighborhood. I was the only Black kid. And whenever something happened in Haiti with immigration, they would come to me and to ask me, hey, what's going on with those Haitians? So when I learned that so many people had lost their land, which caused them to flee the country, that's something I thought back to about all those questions I used to get about immigration. And I think that answers it, right? And also, we kind of see the roots of the dispossession of our, because poverty doesn't happen overnight. It is a long process. And I think that process of 50,000 people in the North alone losing their land, it's something that needed to be included in the film,
Yeah, to that I would add, people don't use the term genocide because very much like they haven't apologized for slavery, right? Reparations may be afoot. An apology may be afoot, and something that we certainly are owed. My own book, Haiti Fights Back, looks at the cost to our human lives, our cost to our national identity, which is high, but I can't imagine being my grandma who was born in 1919 or others in my family having a Haitian flag flying at half staff or not flying at all in a nation that their ancestors helped build. So I think about those all as genocides, et cetera, but also really like the genius of Haitian people in terms of saying, we're still going to praise our culture. We're going to not parler Creole. We're going to talk about negritude. We're going to invent negritude during this time. And when we think about Jacques Romain, the Bureau d'Ethnologie, a lot of Haitian women were already doing this type of field work in Haiti as a result of their experiences with the invasion. So I think there is something there about the word genocide, and you certainly will never find me talking about these 19 years as an occupation, please. It's an invasion, and we do need reparations, very much like we need reparations from France.
Thank you, Yveline. Just a comment here that we have from Leon Waters from the Louisiana Museum of African American History. He said the film is exceptional. The Haitian Revolution led to the coughing up of the Louisiana Purchase. He also would like a screening in New Orleans, so I've put that information there. I think I have one question left. I'll peek, but we cannot go without taking a question from Patrick Bellegarde-Smith. So he asks, the film looked at elite Haitians as more supporting the invasion, as Yveline said, and average Haitians as suffering more. He just wants to ask, what of elite Haitians who fought against the occupation? Georges Sylvain comes to mind.
Yeah, again, in the cut that we have that's longer, we have a mapping out of the relationship between Georges Sylvain and James Weldon Johnson, the collaboration between the Union Patriotique and the NAACP. As you may or may not know, Patrick Sylvain, who's in the film, is a descendant of Georges Sylvain. But that history, it's so significant and so important. I am considering doing a second version of the film that's gonna focus from the years 1921 onward. Can't promise I will do it. I'm a little exhausted after 10 years, but that is something we left on the table. We do have a lot of information on Georges Sylvain in the Union Patriotique.
Thank you. I'm going to just add one thing myself. I'll take the liberty of doing it before I turn back to Cecile. And there's so much love for you in the film, Ella, in there. Just one thing, building on what Nadev said, just a suggestion for me or something to think about on whether the occupation is forgotten or not and who it's forgotten for. I love the part of the film where you call out the New York Times, where you said, like, it's Columbusing. It's, you know, Haitians already know that story, but it's somehow not real until the New York Times talks about that. It also raises the question, right? If everyone knew it, then it's not necessary, or is it just whites who forgot it? So that's just worth, again, unpacking a little more, I think.
Yeah, right. I mean, listen, absolutely, right? I think the unfortunate thing is when it comes to power and institutions of power, it is the he or the who that has power that gets to decide and set the narrative, right? And even though, again, there are plenty of people, plenty of Haitians that I grew up with, that people will never get to know, that used to tell me that stuff when I was a little kid, right? But I guess it's that saying, man, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it fall, you know? And I guess in this sense, the people with the ears that matter are institutions like the Times or the Post. And I think that's very unfortunate. And that's why, you know, I think we should support Haitian journalism, you know, because we need institutions in the country that become an authority on our own story and history.
Thank you, Ella. I'll just say two things then before I turn to Cecile to wrap up. One is, it's true, as Christelle pointed out in the chat was so rich. She didn't learn about this in Haiti. And so it's not something that's covered in the school system. And then I just also want to thank everyone on my behalf for coming out today. One of the things that I tried to argue in Slave Revolt on Screen is that to help build the Haitian film industry, we as consumers have to choose to watch Haitian films, to seek them out, not just to watch whatever is convenient that Netflix or the Cineplex gives us. So thank you for coming out today. This was free, but I hope that you'll consider paying to go to film festivals where Haitian films are shown and trying to get more information. And with that, I'm going to turn things over. I see there are a couple. Should we take more questions or wrap up?
Listen, I'm free all afternoon. So I'm going
to ask the president what she thinks. Madame la Présidente.
Well, I do have to go soon, but you guys are free to stay. I just wanted to thank everyone.
She's in France. So let me just see if Edith. Okay. Edith has put something in the chat. In this era of eliminating the truth, I would argue that this film is not only for Haitian Americans, but all seeking the truth. That's very kind, Anthony. Thank you. There's some questions about Madame Sarah, how they were affected. Maybe that's the last one we'll take. Is that something that either of you know about?
I mean, I'll defer to Yveline.
Or Etienne, if he was here, right? Etienne Duquin, who made a film on Madame Sarah. Go ahead, Yveline.
So true. Merci un peu for that question. You know, it's interesting, this broad terminology of Madame Sarah. How does it voice and make visible, and how does it render invisible and voiceless and nameless so many of the Haitian women who, as we know, have been and always will be the potomitan of our societies, including the diaspora. Many of these women, when I was researching in Haiti, including the drumming circles, the muralists, who were just like, the Kako weren't just 1915, go back to Dessalines' era. When they were asking about Pedat, they were like, you can't find him in an archive. Go to a Vodun, go to an Uga, etc., etc. So when I think about the Madame Sarahs, what I'm finding is that many of them, although nameless, the woman was Charlemagne Pedat had his brother at his side when he was lynched, as well as an unnamed Haitian. I still do not know this woman's name and her position in his life, but she was certainly close. She was there at the time of his death. And so they oftentimes were the letter carriers. They were the people whose bodies that US marine violence enacted egregious acts upon. One woman that I write about was threatened with being lynched because she would not disclose the information of where the Kako were. And there were so many incidents. So if you think about how we speak about rape and sexual assault, think of, if we hear from one, think about the thousands that we don't hear from, right? So again, when people will talk about the ecological impacts of Haiti, it always goes back to the psychological, the cultural, and certainly is rooted in this violence. So many times these Madame Saras were the informants. They were Kako soldiers who were transmitting letters between Perat, between Benoit Batraville, between Dr. Rosalvo Bobo, etc., etc. So they're the unnamed heroes that, you know, with Oneak Respect, Mbayon, na Live La, Haiti Fights Back, because they're important. And it's important for us to sit with that category of Madame Sarah as both empowering, but thinking of what does it do when we don't know their names or broadly call them Madame Sarah. So
yeah.
All right, I think there may be one or two other questions on the table, but that's just a good reason to see if you can bring Alain please, or see the film in the Haiti International Film Festival in Los Angeles, where it will have a virtual screening. All right, with that, I'm going to turn things over for closing to our fearless leader, Madame la Présidente Cécile Assilien, who also has a book coming out on Haitian film by L'Audience. Very exciting, and also has been very supportive in trying to increase our attention to Haitian filmmakers in Haiti. Cécile.
Yes. Merci tout le monde, bienvenue tout le monde, merci pour présence nous. Thank you everyone for coming this afternoon. It's still afternoon for you. I was gonna say tonight. Just a couple of things. First of all, thank you to Alain Martin, Aibobo, for allowing HSC to screen the film. Thank you to Alisa Seppenwall and Yveline Alexis, as well as Julio Centeno, who is the man behind the screen who make all the magic happens. And just a couple of things as I was looking at the chat. Just a reminder, please join HSA so that we can keep this going, so that you can get announcement about all of the exciting things that we are doing. Both Alisa and I share a love of films. We take, and many other scholars, I know Dr. Nadev Mina, who asked the questions, we take films is one of the ways to change Haiti's images. So I work on popular film, as does Alisa and many of us. And in fact, this year, for the first time, HSA, we're gonna have a film award. So we're very excited about that. Our conference will be in Atlanta, 2023, October. I put all that in the chat. Check out our website. We need new voices. We need young people. This is not just like scholars who are teaching. We need activists, filmmakers, artists. So HSA is open to all of you, but the first thing you have to do is join. So I encourage you to do that, and to continue, because it's through your interest that we are able to have conversations and screenings like this. And somebody asked a question, I can't find it, but about interest with whether Black diaspora, I can't find it, but it was something along the idea of cultivating interconnected study groups across Haiti and the Black diaspora. We have been doing that, and in fact, we are having the conference at Morehouse this year, very intentionally. And of course, there's also the fact that the former president, Dr. Regine Jackson, is dean there, so that facilitated. Last year, we were at Howard University in DC. So we really trying to have this inter-dialogue about the Black diaspora. And as many of you knows, and I see Yveline Black Lives Matter earrings, and I saw Black Lives Matter. Haiti has been saying Black Lives Matter. And I know Nadev Mina works on the, she had to work on, as a literary scholar on the occupation, Patrick Belgat-Smith. A lot of people have been doing those interconnected across Haiti and the Black diaspora. And last thing I'll say, one of the projects that some colleagues at NHSA is working on is to create a bag of resources, including syllabus, including different articles available from not just scholars. We hope to have filmmakers, all type of scholars, activists. When I say scholars, again, I don't just mean people who are teaching at universities. And we want resources, but you need to be involved so that we can make it happen, because we think it's important to disseminate that knowledge across the board. So again, join HSA, join Kosamba. If you're interested in the study of Haitian Vodou, Kosamba is the premier organization, and I put all that on in the chat. So Aibobo Punou, again, an extra merci en pile. Alisa, she brought this up. She's the one who co-organized this with Yveline and Alain. So thank you, Alisa. I am grateful. And again, become a member. And you can follow us on social media. Okay. Thank you. Merci tout le monde. Oh yeah. And there's all type of information. I forgot the emerging scholars. Again, we need the young people to keep this going. I'm grateful that Patrick Bellegarde-Smith, I know Marie-Josée, I can't see everybody's name, but Lois Wilkin, a lot of the people, Nadev Mena, who has been working, we able to have events like this because of people like those I mentioned. And so we need the young people to be part of HSA so that this can continue. Aibobo pour tout le monde.